freshly back from the Super Bowl. There's not much to say. It was pretty heartbreaking for me as an Eagles fan, obviously. Got back yesterday from Arizona. I wanted to do the podcast yesterday after we got back, but I had to rest my voice. I pretty much lost it while I was at the Super Bowl, screaming for my team, obviously. And I kind of developed a little bit of a head cold, a scratchy throat, so I've been resting my voice until today. This is Tuesday, Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. But sorry to start this out so somberly, but you know, it is what it is when your favorite team, you go live to the Super Bowl and you watch them lose in real time. It is a tough pill to swallow. So we're going to do a little bit something different for this podcast. We're going to actually go through like a lot of the key points in the game. At least specifically kind of why the Eagles lost this game, because obviously everybody watched the Super Bowl for the most part. And this is just kind of just reiterating some of the points where, some turning points in the game where the Eagles really let the game just slip through the grasp, essentially. This one is going to hurt for a while because we were so close. But yeah, I mean, congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs. Pat Mahomes is the man, and I'll get to some points later on in the podcast about like some things to take away from this game. Two really big points, at the end of the day. But let's get into what happened during the games, points where the Eagles, essentially ended up losing the game because of some of these situations. Basically, the first quarter was incredible. The Eagles went straight down the field. They lost the coin toss, and Kansas City deferred. Eagles get the ball first. They go right down the field. It wasn't easy. It was a long, methodical drive, and the Eagles punch it into the end zone, which was incredible to watch. I was going crazy. You will see a lot of content in the coming weeks of, I'll have some short form stuff of, some stuff that we were doing while, there that weekend, as well as what happened during the game, videos I have for the game itself. And then we're probably going to also have a long form video of, the whole Super Bowl experience this weekend in Arizona. But yeah, let's get back to what I was talking about here. Eagles score first touchdown, feeling great about it. And then the Kansas City Chiefs immediately come back and respond, and their drive looked even easier. At that point, I was thinking, man, this might be a long day for us because the defense was just shredded cheese on that first drive for the Chiefs. And, obviously Negadelphia, and you think the worst. But I was trying to stay positive, obviously. And then, obviously, the Eagles go right back down the field and score on the huge A.J. Brown touchdown. And, I went berserk. That touchdown was incredible. It was directly in front of where we were sitting in the end zone. And that was really, really cool to watch. But basically, right after that happened, 14-7, the Eagles do get a 3-and-out from Kansas City. They stall a little bit there. And at that point, I'm thinking, oh, man, after the A.J. play, some momentum is building here. We got a 3-and-out. This is incredible. We're going to be able to go back down, put another score on the board, and, make this, a little bit of a sizable lead. And at that point, that's what the Eagles have been doing all season, was grabbing leads, holding onto them because they let the pass rush do the rest of the work after they grabbed a lead. And usually it was all that was said and done for most of the teams in the league when the Eagles got in that position. But Pat Mahomes, Andy Reid, the Kansas City offense, they are a completely different animal. So, so after that, I thought we were going to get some momentum. We get the ball back there. And then, of course, the absolute worst thing to happen, Hurts fumbles the ball. He accidentally kicks it as well, and it goes right into the hands of Nick Bolton. He runs it back for a touchdown. And so it's tied up 14-14. An incredible momentum shift from what looked like it was going to be the Eagles taking all the momentum to then Kansas City getting right back in the game. But then Jalen Hurts, man, like he's been doing all season, any kind of adversity, this man just responds, went right back down the field and scored again. It's the fact that like the Eagles can respond and Jalen Hurts is so poised and calm all the time is just why I'm so confident in the Eagles, continued success, as, the seasons progress for the rest of, his career there in Philadelphia. He's obviously in line for a huge extension probably this offseason. They're going to want to go ahead and lock him up for years to come, and I don't blame him for doing it. He showed everything he needed to in this game to prove to the organization and the NFL that he is the man and he's here to stay. So the next big part of the game was essentially, the Eagles do get another stop after that, and this is right before the half, essentially. This next part was the Devontae Smith catch, reviewed and then called back as not a catch, which, they called it a catch on the field, and then, as I have now rewatched the game. Since I was live there, it was a little bit hard to tell what was going on because you don't get any of the communication and any of like the insight from like the commentators or whatnot like you would on TV. So we were just kind of wondering what was going on there and what the refs were saying. But then I have since rewatched the TV copy of the Super Bowl, which was just as painful as the first time watching it. And they were essentially saying that Greg Olson was saying it has to be undisputable video evidence of whatever that needs to be called to absolutely just make it the opposite of what the call was on the field, which was a catch. So they needed all the video evidence, and anyways, they were turned it over, which was weird considering the fact that they did call it a catch on the field, but that's neither here nor there. That's just, it's a 50-50 thing. The NFL is doing some wacky things with their calls and what they're considering a catch, what they're not considering a catch. It's all a bit jumbled right now, unfortunately, but that wasn't the only thing. I mean, at that point, the Eagles still had the ball and they still had momentum, and they drove down the field, and then they stalled. Unfortunately, had to kick a field goal, which that made them go into halftime with a 10-point lead. Which at that point I was feeling pretty decent, But like at the same time, you have Pat Mahomes on the other side of the field, and 10 points can disappear in a flash when you have him on the other side of the field. Also, right around that time when the Kansas City Chiefs went 3 and out before that drive, it looked like Pat Mahomes retweaked his ankle, which was obviously a huge factor in the game. And we were thinking, what's going to happen during halftime? Is he going to, get some shots? Is he going to get some drugs put in that thing just to make himself go for the rest of the, half of the game? But he came back out and flashed. Soon as the Super Bowl halftime ended, the Eagles kicked off and they went right down the field and scored again, putting themselves back in position, back in the game essentially. So basically the next big domino to really fall was the fact that the Eagles were still up 3. They get the ball back there, and they have the Jalen Hurts pass to Quez Watkins, which was a really big drop in this game. He's done the same type of thing multiple times this season where he's just got to get better as a player in general, where like he will get the ball thrown to him and he'll decide to kind of leave the ground, kind of do like a mini dive to try to catch a ball, when at the same time he could probably keep running in full stride and get under that ball, but he doesn't trust himself enough to do it yet, and he has cost the team a few plays throughout the season, and this one was a huge one because the Eagles can get down there. I mean, he's catching that on like the 6-yard line. The Eagles can punch a touchdown in there and take a really sizable lead, but unfortunately I think they stall again and get another field goal, I believe, in that situation. And obviously if you're scoring field goals and Kansas City scoring touchdowns, eventually that lead is going to dwindle, and that's exactly what ended up happening. Let's see. The next thing I have written down here is in the second half, essentially Jonathan Gannon was running too soft of a zone for my liking. He was not being aggressive enough, and Pat Mahomes was taking advantage of it. I mean, he's one of the best blitzing. Like if you blitz against him, he's one of the best quarterbacks at just carving you up that way. And then also if you play too soft of a zone, he's going to be able to carve that up as well if you don't get pressure. And when obviously one of the things people have been saying after on social media and whatnot, and even I guess on TV when it was on the broadcast there, was the field conditions and how bad they were in the Super Bowl, which is a travesty considering it sounds like they spent 2 years growing this grass, and they've been putting natural light on it, and they've been like procuring it for years now, and it costs $800,000 and whatnot. And then you get out there, and apparently nobody actually tested it with like real athletes to see how it would hold up with like people running full speed and trying to turn a corner like a defensive end like Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat in them. Because this was one of the Super Bowls where historically I think there was only like 1 sack in the whole game, and I think Kansas City had it. And it wasn't even a real sack. It was a sack where Jalen Hurts is just running out of bounds to try to get away from a defender, and he was like a half yard behind the line of scrimmage, so it was technically a sack, but not a real one, at the end of the day. So, I mean, the field was in terrible shape. Nobody could get pressure on any of the quarterbacks because they couldn't bend the edge. They couldn't turn the corner because their feet were coming out from under because of the grass, which was ridiculous. I mean, obviously, for an Eagles team who predicated themselves on rushing the passer and having the second most sacks in a season ever, other than the '85 Bears. That was like the whole game. If you can neutralize the pass rush, which is essentially what the field ended up doing. I mean, I'm not going to give Kansas City's offensive tackles credit for that, and their O-line in general credit for that, but people were slipping all over the place. You couldn't bend, you couldn't turn the corner. It was ridiculous that was even a thing. Both teams were slipping, that both teams had to play on the surface, and it really affected the Eagles' game plan. But yeah, so once again, let me get back to Jonathan Gannon and his just unwillingness to be a little bit more aggressive. I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes, dude. He's one of the smartest guys in the NFL. He's got one of the biggest arms. He can scramble even with a bum ankle. He showed that during this game. So it was just, I think Jonathan Gannon just got completely outcoached by Andy Reid, and looks like he's going to be in line potentially for the head coaching job in Arizona. He did not even get back on the plane to go back to Philly with the team after the Super Bowl. He stayed there to, do his interview with the Cardinals. And honestly, if I'm going to be completely real, I hope he doesn't come back to Philly. I just think that his defensive philosophy, I know he had players. Let's not get it twisted. Howie Roseman gave him some ridiculous players to use this season. And he used them quite well in, like I said, in the stat where they had the most sacks in, NFL history other than the '85 Bears. So, I mean, you got to give him a little bit of credit for that, but also at the same time, some of his coverages and some of his, philosophy is just, it's toothless. Like, there's no aggressiveness to it. It's just essentially based on hoping that the opposing quarterback essentially makes mistakes at some point. You just can't bank on that when it comes to elite quarterbacks, and that's exactly what Pat Mahomes is. So he started carving it up. Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes saw something, in the halftime show. They had 29 minutes to, figure some things out there, make some adjustments, and that's exactly what they did. And so they came out in the second half and started just carving us up like a Thanksgiving turkey. So the next thing was essentially Andy Reid saw something on the film in general when it came to motioning that the Eagles were not very good at communicating out of that. So there was obviously two big plays in the second half where near the goal line, the Eagles just miscommunication and lack of discipline destroyed themselves essentially, because the Chiefs were running some motion which made certain players move to certain spots and move positions and change positions based on the coverages. And it essentially left open the first time Kadarius Toney on that touchdown where he was wide open. And then later on in the game, Sky Moore, where he got the game winning touchdown essentially, or what put them up initially. And then, I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. I just feel like you would have to have a counter to that if you're Jonathan Gannon. He just didn't have an answer, and it was just very disappointing. I mean, when Jalen Hurts is out there going toe-to-toe with, Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL, and he's giving you chances every single time to just get one singular stop in the second half, which he failed to do eventually. It's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow because this game might just get completely lost in translation at the end of the day, and that's just a shame considering how well Jalen Hurts and that offense actually ended up playing. All right, and then the next thing was obviously the 3 and out in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter, and then obviously the shanked punt by Aaron Siposs, who, obviously it was like a low punt that Kadarius Toney picked up and then ran back 65 yards to like the 5-yard line. And then all they had to do there was just kind of like punch it in, essentially. And they did that. And that was with the Sky Moore touchdown, like I was saying, with the motion. And he was wide open once again. So then it obviously, the Chiefs are up by 8 there. And it's all on the offense once again to try to make something happen. And, of course, Jalen Hurts responded once again, brought the team all the way down the field, scored a touchdown, and actually got the 2-point conversion by himself with a little bit of a quarterback power play there. So the Eagles tied up at 35, and that was incredible, obviously. And then it was just once again on Jonathan Gannon to get one stop Like how Jim Shorts did in Super Bowl 52. Brady got the ball back with, I think, around 5 minutes to go. It was almost the exact same situation. It was weird how that happened. And I told the guy in front of me that was also an Eagles fan, I was like, look, man, this is a spot where they got to be aggressive and try to get like a strip sack or something. Just get a turnover. You just can't let Pat Mahomes use every bit of this clock and then go down and kick a game-winning field goal or a game-winning touchdown. And Jonathan Gannon stayed in his stupid, scheme where he just was dying a slow death essentially, and they ticked off pretty much the entire clock, got down there, and then obviously the Eagles got a few stops, and then there was obviously the ridiculous holding penalty on James Bradberry on Juju Smith-Schuster, and that essentially sealed the game. They were able to kind of just kneel on the ball for the rest of the game there, and they had 11 seconds left, I think, whenever they kicked the field goal. It ended up being like 6 by the time Jalen Hurts got the ball at the very end of the game there, and he, tried to do like the Hail Mary. It did not work out. He couldn't even get it there, essentially. I mean, it had to have been like 70 yards in the air, and it just wasn't going to happen. He also said that like he stepped on the back foot of Jason Kelce when he kind of crow hopped to get into that one, and it threw his arm off, but whatever. None of that's really relevant at the end of the day. I mean, James Bradberry at the end of the day also said it was a hold, so he took accountability for it. The whole team took accountability for the loss. They were, good losers at that point. At least they weren't whiny crybabies like the 49ers have been the last few weeks, considering, their situation with the Eagles win. But at the end of the day, the refs made the call. It sucks because, like most people were saying on social media and whatnot, it just kind of really stripped the viewership of what could have been an incredible last possession in a already classic and one of the best Super Bowls in the history of Super Bowls in the whole era. So it just sucks because, if at that point the Eagles probably have the ball with a minute 50 with a timeout, and that is enough time to go down the field and at least kick a field goal to take this thing to overtime or even score a game-winning touchdown by Jalen Hurts, because it's not like Kansas City really stopped the Eagles' offense all game. So it's unfortunate that's the way it ended. You hate to see it essentially end on a holding call like that. It's a holding by the rule of the book, but in that spot where you were letting the players play all game long, it's just it sucks. It just hurts. And for the Super Bowl to end like that, it is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Like I said, hard pill to swallow. My throat still hurts from all the screaming and whatnot, and I am starting to lose my voice again. So, let me just get to these last two things that I don't want to get lost in translation before my voice goes here. That's going to be Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT. I'm saying it now, right this second. I don't care what anybody says. Brady haters can come out of the woodworks for me. I think he's the greatest quarterback of all time. What he did this season was incredibly impressive. After the offseason where everybody was saying, the offense was predicated on Tyreek Hill and the long passing game, what is Mahomes going to do? Is he going to evolve? Is he going to change the way he plays offense where he's going to have to pick apart defenses one by one, Is he going to be able to carve up defenses because he didn't have the elite, space mover in Tyreek Hill there? Is he going to be able to get is he going to be able to get Travis Kelce open as much as he was, before, because Tyreek Hill gave them so much space, blah, blah, blah. He's got a bit of a ragtag group of wide receivers there. Juju Smith-Schuster is on a 1-year deal. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is on like a 3-year deal. Nobody thinks he's a great wide receiver by any stretch of the imagination. They trade for Kadarius Toney, which everybody wrote off when he was with the Giants, because the Giants organization is a disaster and they have no idea when they do and do not have talent. He is a better player than people expected. So essentially Pat Mahomes did with a ragtag group of wide receivers, one of the greatest tight ends of all time in Travis Kelce, a top 5-ish type offensive line. I'll give him credit for that, obviously. And then just a very okay defense. What he did this season was he led the league in passing yards. He led the league in passing touchdowns. He was the regular season MVP. He won the Super Bowl and was the Super Bowl MVP. Quarterbacks go their entire career without doing any of those things. He did all of them in one season. I mean, it probably took, I think it was maybe when he was in his late 30s when Peyton Manning eventually did all, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. The 5 things that Pat Mahomes did this season alone, great quarterbacks have waited their entire career to do. And it's just, it's a testament to just how good he is, man. It's just, I just don't know. I don't know how you can't watch him and think he is the greatest quarterback your two eyes have ever laid upon a football player, because he just is the man and he gets it done. And I don't know what else. I mean, yeah, he has Andy Reid, which is one of the best play callers in the history of, the NFL. But Tom Brady had Bill Belichick. I don't know. I mean, if you want to say the whole Peyton Manning thing, Peyton Manning was essentially his own coach. He was that smart of a player and quarterback. But he still didn't get it done all the time. I don't know. It's just Pat Mahomes, I think right now, is the greatest of all time, and he's only going to put more and more accolades on his plate by the time he's done playing football. He's 27 years old. He has 2 Super Bowls. He's only lost one of them. He's been 5 straight AFC Championship games. He's been in 3 Super Bowls, won 2 out of 3. I mean, I don't know, dude. And the one he lost, his offensive line was terrible. He couldn't do anything. I don't know. It's incredible what he's been able to accomplish this early on in his career, and I think it's just going to get, better and better at this point. I, as an Eagles fan, saw it live action for the first time, and I promise you, I don't want to see the Eagles play against him ever again. Which it might end up being the first game of the season this next upcoming season, because that's a lot of times they do the Super Bowl rematch on that Thursday night football game to kick off the season. So it's going to happen next year. They're going to play each other next year for sure. I just don't know when exactly that's going to be, but not really looking forward to it. I'm going to be honest with you, because he is the end all be all, man. He just it doesn't matter if he's on the lesser team, in which he was in this game. The Eagles were the better team, top to bottom, roster-wise, and it didn't matter. Pat Mahomes did what he needed to do to get the job done, and that's just what he always does. He's incredible, man. The next big thing that I want to get out of this was, and just not to lose in translation because of how wild this game was just how good Jalen Hurts is. He is top 5. I don't know where I'm going to put him exactly right now. I'll do that eventually, but the dude made some incredible throws in this game. He went toe-for-toe with Patrick Mahomes, arguably had a better game throwing the ball than him. Made some throws to Dallas Goedert that were ridiculous. The A.J. Brown touchdown. We just got to put some respect on Jalen Hurts' name at this point, because he's the man, and I'm so proud of him and what this team has accomplished this season. He and the team did the impossible, essentially. He went 16-1 as a starter, which is just incredible. That just doesn't happen very often. And I'm just really excited for the future. Obviously, he's, like I said before, he's in line for a huge contract, and he deserves every penny of it. We'll just have to see if Howie Roseman can make things happen where he can kind of keep that core completely together. The offense is really good. They're locked up for the next however many years, 3 or 4 years. So that's good on that side. The defense, I should say, is where there's a lot of free agents that are going to need to be retained, and some are going to have to go, some will stay. But I think the Eagles are going to be in contention for years to come, especially with Jalen Hurts as the leader and the quarterback of this team. So there's nothing else I can really say, but I'm glad Jalen Hurts is my quarterback, and that's something that I didn't think I was going to be able to say going into this season. And I'm just so glad it's happened the way it has, because he is the man. He's proven all the haters and the doubters wrong. Even though that he didn't, finish the job off here, it really wasn't on him. I blame Jonathan Gannon more than anybody for this loss, but it is what it is. That's pretty much it for the podcast. I appreciate everybody listening this whole season long. We're going to get into a lot more content going into the off season. We're going to do a whole lot of different rankings. I'm probably going to do some way too early division winners, and maybe even Super Bowl predictions, super early one. I might get into, I don't say might. I am definitely going to get into some draft coverage, some stuff here and there for that. Maybe do like a top 10, maybe top 5 players in this draft that I like the most. Depending on, all kinds of positions. Doesn't have to be one position or anything like that. Just my favorite prospects coming into this. Combine's in 2 weeks, so NFL football content does not end after the Super Bowl. This whole thing is going to keep rolling, and I'm excited to get through it. I'm also looking forward to potentially starting a new segment, off of this whole podcast platform, and do something new. And hopefully, I can bring that to you guys soon, sooner rather than later. I got to do some stuff to get prepared for that, but. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the off season. Obviously, the Eagles have the number 10 overall pick in the draft, as well as the 30th pick in the draft as well. So there's going to be plenty to talk about when it comes to the Eagles. There's going to be plenty to talk about when it comes to the NFL, because the clock never stops on the NFL, essentially. They've made it a year-round whole thing, so the NFL's done a good job of that. But yeah, I appreciate everybody listening this whole season, and we're going to get right back into some content pretty soon hereafter. Probably take a little bit of a few days off here until we get ramped back up for the off season. But yeah, once again, please subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to all of our social media platforms: Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all that good stuff. And once again, I appreciate Weston for editing this bad boy, because this thing was a mess, considering how many times I had to stop it for coughing, because my voice was getting a little weak. So. Once again, I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.